everyone, and welcome to the Vigilance Committee. Yet another Wednesday night open panel, and Nikki does have the link at the top of the screen there. So anyone that wants to join the panel and discuss this topic, you're welcome. Utah Defender's already in here, even though he calls himself Elmer Fudd today. so, having said that, Nikki, do you have any housekeeping items before we get started?
Just the normal. Welcome in. Thank you for being here, spending Wednesday evening with us. I guess we're getting more people in. We're probably not going to get a lot because the Angry Vet is live. Oh, he must have just ended. So we might get more people coming in.
Okay.
And I know that For Public Safety was over there in his chat too.
Okay. And they were both
welcome in,
invited to the
everybody.
panel too today. So, all right. So here's the topic of the day. Police now have the capability to download all your data and extract all your data on your phone. And it comes with a machine. See it? This is the type of machine being used by police to extract data from people's phones. So put a one in the chat if you think this is awesome that they can get stuff off of your phone now. And put a two if you don't think it's a good thing that they can get information off of your phone. No warrant, illegal, Double X says. Okay, gotcha. What about seizing a phone in the first place after you've been arrested and keeping it for evidence? Do you think that's a good thing so that they can get into it and get all your information? Put a one in the chat if you think that's okay, or two in the chat if you don't think it's okay. So I'm seeing a lot of twos here. David says two. Stephanie said two. And Unity said two twice. He voted twice. Utah Defender said two. All right. So I think we have a consensus here. Not to mention it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, right? Seizing your property without a warrant. And then once they've seized that property, then they can get into it or try to get a warrant from an illegal seizure. That's not a good thing either, right? I would hope everybody could agree with that too. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and play this video. It comes to us by who? Nikki? What was the name of that?
Just a second. My goodness.
Hang on. I can just make this small again.
It brought to our attention by Free Your Mind Videos, and they can be found on that GreenTube place. Their link is in the description.
On Rumble. So do we have Rumble live right now too, Nikki?
Yep, we sure do.
Good. If you don't have a Rumble account, please get one and watch us on Rumble, because there we are monetized. Everyone's monetized on Rumble. So please
and we've
go
made
there.
6 cents on Rumble.
Yeah, because there's just not a lot of people over there. So
right. But we have made money on Rumble. We have not made any money on YouTube.
That's right. That's right.
Matter of fact, we cannot get monetized. So
yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Here we go. It's only 1 minute and 35 seconds, so. This is what it can find.
Call logs, chats, cookies, device notifications, emails, instant messages, passwords.
You can see deleted conversations on encrypted apps like WhatsApp and Signal, Millie's deleted web browsing history.
Hopefully nothing too embarrassing.
Contact information for everyone she's spoken to, the locations of all her calls.
And you can see other people's phone numbers. So obviously got more.
Can you see their messages to you?
Yeah.
So the police are getting information about people
you've contacted who have
Exactly.
nothing to do with the arrest that might have happened.
Exactly, and who may have contacted me securely about work using Signal. I think the most worrying is that this can happen on arrest, even when charges are never even brought. It can also happen to witnesses and to victims. There seems to be nothing clear in terms of deletion, so it seems like the police can effectively do what they want when they obtain your phone.
It's a scary amount of information. It's also so useful for the police. This is going to be so important in investigations.
Of course. The trouble is, at the moment, you don't need a warrant to obtain any of this. There has to be a degree of involvement of checks and balances that says, well, do you know what, in this case, it's not necessarily proportionate. You don't need this person's phone.
There you go. That's scary.
Is
That
this an
absolutely
example?
scary.
Is this an example of technology ahead of the laws?
Yes,
Yes.
I think it is. I think it is. That's a good point you made
And
there.
the technology has actually been out there pretty much since, I want to say, since we've had to use chargers that plug into the little ports on our phone. Anything that you can plug into a phone or a computer or a smart TV, they can use a device like this to pull data, and you don't need the password.
So the
Isn't
laws have
that
already been
just
set
a-
according to Dubwebs. The laws have been set in 1791. It's called the Fourth Amendment. Searches and seizures. It's a Fourth
So is
Amendment
this just in
violation.
England? The ladies were
No.
British. Is just in England, or are they using it here?
The Constitution was drafted and ratified in 1791, Utah Defender. So in the Constitution, it says that they cannot seize or search your property without a warrant. They'd already seized, they'd already seized phones in an arrest without a warrant.
The
And if
ladies
that's the
were
case,
Br-
they can't use
No.
any of the data that they achieve. I mean, that's my opinion. How many people think that they can use the data if they did not get a warrant before they even seize the phone? Put a one in the chat if you think they can. Put a two if you think they absolutely cannot use any data that they were from a phone that they achieved, basically seized illegally without a warrant. Justin Thompson says 1. Dubs says 2. David says 2. So if they don't have a warrant to seize your phone, can they? Okay, yes, they can, but is allowed? Is it allowed? No. Right. Okay. So that means they wouldn't be able to use any of the data in court if they seized the phone illegally and then got data off of it. Right? Am I right about that, folks? Put a yes if you agree with me. Put a no if you don't.
Does our agreement make it so?
I'm going to say no.
Right. I mean, so
Because they can use the data, yes.
can they use it
However,
against you in court if they
they
illegally seize the phone?
can use the data that they have downloaded to get a warrant, which then circumvents the whole of whether or not it is legal for them to get the data. If they download the data and they have access to it from downloading it, then they can say, well, Your Honor, we have reason to believe that we're going to find A, B, and C on this phone. So can we have our warrant? They don't have to tell the judge that they already have the data. But now they have A, B, and C, and the judge can say, well, yes, here, I'm going to sign off on the warrant. And then all of a sudden, what they used what we consider illegally is now legal.
Shouldn't the question be asked of law enforcement, have you already obtained information out of the cell phone? And if you have, you may not use it.
I mean, this is a pretty complicated question, right? I mean, I think it's fruit of the poisonous tree. They illegally
you.
seized your phone in the first place and then got data off of it and then asked for a warrant. It's like they've done everything backwards.
Exactly.
And then they asked for a warrant to obtain the data that they've already attained and use it against you in a court of law.
What does lawyer dog think, since he's a law student?
Yeah. The probable cause for the warrant is subject to exam by the defense and possible challenges. Right, because they're doing a fishing expedition. Whenever they take your phone and then go through it, aren't they fishing for something that they can charge you with?
Exactly.
And they did it without a warrant?
Exactly. Do you know anybody that are doing that to, Cliff?
The law doesn't matter. These folks are corrupt. Well, we know that, Jim. We're trying to figure out, because right now that's what's happening to Utah Defender. They seized his phone, and we believe that they've already gone through the phone, but now they're trying to obtain a warrant for the data within the phone. That's the scenario. That's the exact scenario that Utah Defender is going through. And it's a work product. It's his work product. It's his press equipment. And Title 42, if people will read that, Title 42, Section 2000, small a, I believe in its entirety, it says that information that it's unlawful for them to do what they did. It violates federal law. Now,
let me add another caveat, if I may, in there.
Let me finish with my point here first.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Yeah, no. But in Nikki and I had this discussion. She said the lower courts can still do it, even if it violates federal law. It's. Go ahead, Utah Defender.
Well, in my case, I was illegally detained with no probable cause and with no articulable suspicion. So if they go into my phone already, even if they get a warrant after the fact, they're screwed.
Well, I know that's your opinion. Does everyone agree with that opinion? Dismissing it and using it are two separate things, not used in court, but they can use it against you in the long run. I don't understand that answer.
I don't either. I don't know what it means
Okay.
by they can use it against you in the long run.
No.
Meaning,
Go ahead, Nikki.
let's say you get, and I'm going to go back to it. Sorry, Cliff. Let's say you get cited for some stupid town law. You know, you can't have a horse in the middle of the road. You get cited for that. You go to your county court. County court throws it out. However, your city cops have already downloaded your data without your password, without a warrant, without whatever. Now, the next time they see you walking in town, they've got in the back of their mind, oh, you know what? Remember what we found on his phone? Now we have to watch him even more. Just like Snarky says, keeping chickens. You know, TC with Minnesota Black Robe Regiment is going through that right now with his town.
Can I tell you a real case that actually happened? There was actually a young man that went into the Weber County Jail They seized his phone. They went through the whole phone. He got his phone back. I don't know what the time period was, but they came back with a warrant that he had pictures of children of sexual abuse
Yeah,
on his
okay.
phone.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, they can plant stuff in your phone too. Now, I think that there would be forensics. You could hire a forensics expert to figure out when and where and who had possession of the phone when that stuff was put on your phone. But I'm not sure. I believe, though, that this young man got 10 years in prison for having that kind of stuff on his phone. And
I
he
found out it was 10
admitted
years
never
of probation.
probation. Okay. And I believe that these cops are doing nefarious things with people's phones when after they seize them and go through their data. Because if they can get in there and go through your data, they can also plant stuff in your phone too. I mean, it's just it's nuts. Um, yeah, but you can sue for all these violations, right? But the process has already been the punishment, lawyer dog. I mean, they've already convicted you of a crime, blah blah blah, and because they seized your phone illegally. Um, so you're spending all that money, time, blood, sweat, tears, going through hell, and then you have to sue them and potentially lose in a lawsuit too. That takes 2, 3, 4 years, sometimes even longer, to be made whole again. I mean, and who has the money for that? Not a lot of people do. Most people don't. So you just end up screwed all the way around. So why even fight any charges? Why not just plead out, take your probation, and move on with your life? And that's what most people do. They don't even try to fight. And I don't know. It's a pickle. It's almost like, why even fight the system? All the cards are stacked up against you anyway. You know, it's really disheartening. Yeah. Well, even Moore, who detained Utah Defender in the first place, said, "I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want,"
And he did.
and he did. Hello, Show Me Audits. Good to see you. Anybody else want to come up on the panel and discuss this? I think there's some opinions here in chat, but I think you should come up on panel and talk about why you have these opinions. Because there's not, I mean, this is really controversial, and it's convoluted. It's very, very complicated, and there's the law, and then there's what is right. You know what I mean? All right, Dubwubs. Can you show us your picture before we bring you up? Just your face. Okay, good to see you, Dubwubs. All right, I'm bringing you up.
Hey, what's up, peeps?
Hey, good to see you, brother.
How's it
Yeah,
going?
give us your opinion on this whole thing, because it's really hard to figure out what's right, what's wrong, and what's legal and what's not legal.
Well, I think that it's obviously all illegal. So naturally, it's morally wrong. The government doesn't care. The Fourth Amendment, you have the right to be safe in your person's papers and effects, which means that everything that you own, and I think that by extension, your phone is your papers and it is your effects. And so what they do is they'll confiscate your phone and then get a warrant, which is actually only legal if there is a probability or a known probability that you may destroy the evidence. Other than that, they can't actually confiscate your phone. But they don't care. The judge isn't going to see it that way, even though they should. And then they'll just wait for the warrant. If they get the warrant, chances are they already downloaded your data anyways, with or without the warrant. And then with the warrant, now they have the legality to introduce it as evidence if they find anything.
Mhm.
So to me, I think using the NSA and the CIA's inventions against the people is not only unconstitutional, it's also an act of treason, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Um,
KYRX says it's a messed up situation. We all know the law behind it, but getting something done about it is another at the end of the day. They have your private information in their computer.
EQI, I never said that they. No, I mean you have me wrong. I didn't say that they cared. Actually, I said the opposite. They don't care.
Yeah. No,
but
they
what's
don't.
done is done, and once they have it, they can say they deleted it all they want. Good luck. And so what I
Yeah.
was saying before was not just towards the specific case we're talking about, but they do it all the time. I mean, they do illegal wiretaps all the time, and what they do is they listen in, and then now they know where the drop is. Now they can catch you red-handed, and then that's now evidence. But they never had the warrant to wiretap in the first place. So anything they find underneath an illegal wiretap is non-admissible, but there's nothing you can do about it because it led them to proper evidence that they can use in court.
So fruit of the poisonous tree.
That's what I said to begin with. But it's only fruit of the poisonous tree if, well, either way it is, but I mean, it's only provable if you can prove that they had, say, an illegal wiretap or they downloaded your data beforehand without a warrant. Well, good luck. I mean, we can't even get body cams.
Should
So-
the owner of the cell phone be able to see when they went into his phone?
Say that one more time.
Wouldn't we, as the owner of our cell phone, go to somebody that's forensics and they could tell us when the police entered our phone? So if it was done before the warrant, we can go after them?
I mean, it depends on the system they're using. If they upload something, it depends on how clever they are. We're talking about potential technology that was built for foreigners and stuff for other countries, and so it's not hard to create a whole forensic background on something. It's we're talking about very sophisticated programs that aren't even supposed to be shared with the public. Downloading it, no, you wouldn't know that someone downloaded your data. They just copy it, it just
Isn't that
disappears.
some type of thing inside the phone that tells you when your phone was entered and exited?
It just depends on the sophistication of their software. Once again, we're talking about the NSA and the CIA who can get into anybody's phone digitally with whatever they want.
Yeah, but we're
your
talking about a city
information-
police detective that's
but where did
gonna
they
go
get
through.
technology from is the question. So that's what I'm saying. So it's going to depend on who did it.
So you don't think it would leave a footprint when they went into the phone if they went into it prior to the warrant?
No, because you can delete the trace. You can delete the footprint. The
in theory.
technology is so good now that it would take years of forensically digging to find where it was, because even though we think every time we plug our phone in to charge, it gets logged, which it does, but it gets logged as ones and zeros, the old analog system. You would actually need a forensic technologist to go in and translate what all that analog data is. I mean, private investigators do it all the time.
So wouldn't the narrow
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, they cannot compel a password. They don't need one. with this new technology.
It's not even new. They've had it for years. It just depends on
Hmm.
who has it, where they got it from, and who wrote the code.
In my
So,
case, they
another
said the
thing is,
reason.
well, what I was going to say is, like I said, it depends on the sophistication of the code and who built it and why. You can easily download things, and if it leaves a log, you can also have something that erases that log immediately while it's doing it. So I would think that if the United States were to label that as constitutional in any way, I would think, in theory, not that I trust them at all, there would be some kind of measure to make sure that there would be some accountability. But knowing our government, I doubt they would care.
So I want to bring up the fact why they wanted a warrant to get in my phone. They said I conspired with Don Newman, and there's no conspiring on my phone. Any messages between the two of us about talking about going into DCFS where we went into film to disrupt anything, and I didn't set up the meeting. Jose had called me.
Let's not talk about that in here because you do have an open case on this. But yeah, I mean they're
Sometimes
not going
the
to find
process is
anything.
the punishment.
Yeah, they're not going to find anything. But yeah, they're still getting into his phone, and they shouldn't have a right to.
No,
That's the problem.
Yeah. So regardless, I mean, you know how police do. They'll lie on any sworn affidavit given to them, just
Yeah.
to because it's. I mean, I'm going to be honest. It's the government against the people, and that's how it's always been. And I'm not saying that it's. I'm going to be very careful with what I say. When I say that, I don't mean. What I mean is that they're going to protect themselves, like they always have, and that's just how it is. So they don't care. I mean, you've seen it with Carolina and Fort Worth. They completely smashed her face in the ground and then stacked charges on her to the sky so that she's stuck in limbo until it's figured out.
Yeah.
All it took them was a swipe of a pen to sign a piece of paper, and the DA ran with it. And same
Yep.
with the judge. I mean, all they got to do is swear under oath. Whether they're lying or not, the judge will take that at its face and just allow the warrant to go through. What they do.
Well, let me say something here on this too. In the video, the female sergeant with the ponytail said that she, because Jose Utah Cop Watch asked her, "Why is he being arrested?" And she says, "I don't know. I was paying attention to you." But then in her sworn affidavit, she said
Cliff,
something
Cliff,
completely
Cliff,
different.
Cliff. We're not talking about an open case. We're talking about whether they can access your data without a password. And
Yep, that's
KY
true.
React says he has all his messaging encrypted. Well,
Doesn't
in
matter.
that video, it showed that they can find even the encrypted data, even the stuff that's deleted, like that. What is that? Snapchat that only lasts for a minute and then it disappears from your phone. You can't access it. They can, that with the technology of them just plugging this machine into your phone, they can see everything.
If they had enough evidence, they can get a warrant to Snapchat because Snapchat isn't going to delete anything, which is also scary because you think, well, it's now it's gone. It's like, no, Snapchat's seen all of your weird stuff that you were doing. They're not dumb. They own it. It's in the terms and service that they own every picture you take in that thing.
So I do see that we have some people in the community in the chat here. Has anyone had their phone seized at all when they got arrested and then warrants to go through the phone? Has this happened to anybody else that's in chat right now? And if so, come up and tell us your experience of what happened and what the outcome was.
Well, they're not in the audience. Show me audits. Go ahead and join us up on stage. But look at Chris and Tiff.
Yeah, it happened to them.
Look at the angry vet. They took the phone from his wife. There was no warrant.
Okay, lawyer dog, get up here as well. Yes, tell us the story. Well, and that's a good point, but and I don't believe that most people commit crimes on their cell phone. Um, but yeah, I mean, it could happen. Um, but yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to go without a device? Maybe we should. I mean, you know, maybe get off the grid completely. Otherwise, somebody could come up with something to charge us with. It's ridiculous.
I mean, if we all think about it, this goes clear back. And granted, we do have devices now, but lawyer dog, I'll bring you up in a minute. But think about when, I don't know, the mob was in Dallas. How many illegal wiretaps did they have to find out, who Jack Ruby was? Or who was meeting Frank Sinatra in Vegas and when? I mean, this has been going on for a long time. It just, now that more people have these devices that we carry with us all the time, people think, oh, I've got a passcode or, facial recognition or whatever. It's protected. It really isn't.
Which president was in office during the Cold War?
Kennedy.
Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson.
Was it Kennedy? Okay, I don't know if it was either
Yeah.
the Cold War or World War II, but I think it was Russia gave the president this really cool plaque, and they put it on the wall in the Oval Office. And at the time, they didn't know how they were encrypting everything because they weren't, or decrypting. They weren't decrypting it. There was a bug inside of that plaque. So everything going on in the Oval Office was being sent straight to Russia.
I heard it was the State Department that they put that into.
I thought what I seen, I thought it was in the White House. So I mean, don't take my word for it because it's been a long time, but there's at least something y'all can research on your own.
All right, let's hear from Lawyer Dog. Tell us your experience there, brother. Is he on mute? Is he here? What happened?
All right, lawyer dog, try now. You're muted, by the way.
Can you unmute him, Nikki?
Nope, not while he must be having technical difficulties.
Okay. All right, Tyrants Beware is in the house.
Read Culture Club's message.
Let's see. Let me take a look here.
My Alexa spies on me.
Can you read it for me, Nikki? I can't see it from here.
Yeah, it says it's not possible to go off the grid because we are being tracked at every point, even in our homes. Unless we move to the mountains, in the woods, build a cabin with 0 devices aside from a radio. However,
Yeah.
Culture Club, even with a radio, they can track that signal because they've been recorded since the 1970s.
Yeah,
They can
you
check-
can't
they
have
can track
any
the
electronics
receiver
at all.
device. the receiver device. They'll know exactly where it went into and came back out of. Also, the satellites have infrared and heat signature in it, so they can see everything in the mountains. So technically, you're off the grid, yes, but they know where you're at.
What a wonderful world.
Oh, they've been doing this for a couple hundred years. I mean, it's all in the game plan of the New World Order.
Yeah.
Listen to
Rockford.
everything, trust nothing.
Yeah. Believe half of what you see and nothing of what you hear. It's crazy. So, according to the Constitution, they had no right to seize his phone, and so we can cite that. But I don't know. It's how can they violate the Constitution at every turn and get away with it like they are? I don't get
Well,
it.
Case law. Same
something
like
else.
all. Go ahead.
There's something else to think about. If a person's illegally detained and they don't have reasonable articulable suspicion or probable cause, they cannot touch the cell phone, period. And if they do, then that's not right. But it doesn't mean they're not going to get away with it.
So unless there's
Okay, hang
an
on, hang on,
abundant
hang on.
amount of probable, reasonable, articulable suspicion that you're going to immediately destroy the data, they can't seize it. They have to wait for a warrant. That's the only time, and that's case law because SCOTUS is a bunch of tyrants anyways. It's the only time that they can seize the phone temporarily until they get a warrant, is if there's possibility of evidence being destroyed.
But today I learned that they cannot get a warrant if the individual's detained illegally. They can't get a warrant, period. The Fifth Amendment.
Well, until you
protects-
prove that you were detained illegally, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, well, it's whoever that was, it's going to happen.
Well, they put the cart before the horse to get away with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But then they're going to have to do a little backstepping on it too, because
Yeah, there's incontrovertible evidence that they got the cart before the horse. They had no right to detain him. Yep.
And I read
There's
that the
evidence
Fourth
of
and
that.
Fifth Amendment protects you from getting a warrant.
Well, that and just claiming that you conspired without any PC or RAS, it's automatically like you can't just say, "Well, I think they were conspiring." That's not how. It's not even how RAS works, let alone PC.
I've got an affidavit that said that that's what they did. I don't want to talk about my case because I don't want Nikki telling me to shut up. But yeah, they
Well,
already
you
went
can
ahead
start
and
with
did that.
allegedly and speak about other situations, wink, wink, or whatever. However you got to do it. There's other ways of bringing your information without speaking about your case.
Yeah, well, they came up with a phony a thing by saying there's probable cause. They don't even know that. That's what they're hinging it on, and they're going to end up with mud on their face. Is what's going to happen. There's no proof of what they said, and I think they should be able to be held accountable for doing that and lying on an affidavit.
Well, because even if you are an officer, it still is a felony, but that's never going to happen. We all know that.
No.
Hey, Nikki, if you put those up there and want to read them out loud, be my guest.
No, I'm just putting them up there. You guys are having a conversation. I'm trying to keep up in 5 different places. So when
I
I
like
find
when-
something interesting, I'll point it out. As Utah Defender has been known to say, I'm very observant.
Yes.
Okay.
Anytime I hear Nikki not talking, like right now, she's thinking about something, and then she's going to spring it on us, and it's going to be heavy.
Yeah. Lawyer Doug, can you speak of your experience with this?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
All right, awesome. Well, I just have a kind of a funny, interesting story I wanted to mention on this in particular, which is where when the police had arrested me and they wanted to get into my phone, and they pulled this little trick on me in the interrogation room where they were like, just call. They actually told me to call my mother, you know. I mean, granted, I was like a 30-year-old man at the time, but it could be anyone I suppose they could use this trick with. But they're like, call your mom and just have her tell us, you know, so that she can tell us that you're what kind of a person you are, you know, so that we can know whether or not you would have like done this or something. And so I was like, all right, you know, so I go to call my mom and I type in my password on my phone. Oh, but they're like, but you have to hold the phone on the table so that we can see what, yeah, so that we can see you're not like, you know, deleting any information or something like that. So I'm like, all right. So I put the phone on the table and I type in my password and to go to call her. And the cop, being as, I guess, dumb as they are, so to speak. I mean, it's not to be mean to him, but he actually says it out loud. He all says my password out loud after I typed it in. He repeats what he saw. And I was like, what? Why did you just say that out loud, you know? And it was so he could record it, I guess, probably on his microphone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, no, that's not cool, you know? And then they snap my phone from me and they use that password to get into my phone. And I guess I don't even think they needed a warrant because they had the password that way. Yeah, they were able to
They
actually
illegally seized your phone, though. They illegally seized it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, technically, but then they trumped it up and they, you know, they had 3 cops that all lied together and said that they said that I punched the cop, which I didn't. So they threw that in my face and basically said, plead guilty to a lesser charge with, you know, no time, or we're just gonna, you know, take you to trial and charge you with assault on an officer, where you could face 5 years in prison. You know, it's that whole game. So of course you're gonna be like, well, it's the 3 cops lie versus my word. And you know, at the time, you know, the public defenders won't help get the body cam footage from the lying cops, and it won't help get any camera footage from the restaurants. And he straight up told me he was gonna, you know, throw me under the bus in court because he's working for them anyway. And you know, they get you to take the plea bargain of basically, you know.
What I learned in my research today is that as soon as they know your password, all bets are off. They can go into your phone. That's what happened to you. And they screwed you. And it was wrong. And they lied to you. But they can do that, you know. So as soon as they have your password, it's just like face recognition. If you got anybody that's listening, do not have face recognition or fingerprint, because all they got to do is hold the phone up to your face or put whatever fingers on there. And if they open it up, they get full access to it. You're screwed.
But that's what this machine is doing that they're plugging in, is it is bypassing the password. It is bypassing the facial recognition. It is bypassing the fingerprint.
Well, that's wrong.
So,
Yeah, but that's all European phones and stuff too. You got to remember that they make phones different for each country. Yeah. They're not going to make the same phone for China as they are for Europe versus America. I'm not saying that
right.
America's any better, but I'm saying that the phones they can sell in China are way stricter for access, and the ones they can sell in Europe are way less restrictive, whereas at least there's some amount of dignity left in these corporations. Not much, don't get me wrong, in America. So, but as well, we know it's all just code. So if we know how to crack the code, then you got all access.
But here in the United States, the certain police departments who have lots of money are able to purchase, I believe it's called Stingray system, which does basically the same thing.
I forgot who it was. We were watching was watching something, and they're like, "Well, interesting. They couldn't get into that LA shooter, his iPhone, but they can get into every single J6 phone without a blink of the eye, you know?" And it just kind of seems more politically biased than their actual capability to me.
Hey, Nikki, can you find the Title 42 USC 2000 AA and put that up on the screen so we can all read that? Because that is federal law, and it says that they can't get into your phone. They can't seize your phone at all. No government employee can seize your phone when it's a work product, like a journalist.
Oh, you mean like absent an arrest though? But was this
Well,
absent
it
an
doesn't
arrest?
say absent arrest in that law. I didn't
Well,
see
you
where
know
it
how
says.
well, if you're talking about journalism, you know how SCOTUS got around that? If you don't explicitly state you're the press while you're doing it, then you're just a member of the public.
But he did.
So well, then there you go. So now there's grounds.
Exactly.
That's like when they went in, and James O'Keefe, when he still worked for Project Veritas, they went in and home raided, like an actual SWAT team raided like 6 of their journalists' homes and took all of their journals. Even though they got them back, they probably photocopied every one of them before they gave them back. That's what they do. They don't care. Now they have the information where they can use it in court or not. They can use it to further their investigation into other evidence or other, even if it's not criminal evidence, other evidence to stop whatever political bias they have at the time. So,
Well, how can they do that? Doesn't the warrant narrow the scope of the intrusion of a person's cell phone or computer?
all warrants had to be very specific. It has to name the person, the devices, and usually it says all devices, and the information they're looking for. And that's for devices. And same with home raids. It just depends on the scope of the warrant. Some judges can say, fucking tear the house up. You never know. So it all just depends on what the warrant says.
But again, it has to be narrowed on the warrant. In other words, let's say if they said that you have probable cause you colluded, that has to state that, and anything else that they find is not admissible to that court for whatever they're trying to find this person guilty of. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it's inadmissible in court. It doesn't mean they can't keep the information. And so
Okay.
we're talking more than your case. We're talking about every possible situation out there.
Exactly.
There's plenty of things out there that, you know, cartels and da-da-da, and I won't get, you know, use your imagination. There's plenty where even though they can't use it in court for that trial date, it's still information they can use later on. So once, like I said in chat earlier, once they have the information, they're never deleting it.
All right, so let's make that really as big as possible. If someone could read that out loud and just follow along there. There we go. Lawyer Doug, can you read that?
Oh, let's see here. I can just read the headline right there, searches and seizures by government officers. But I can't see the whole.
And employees in connection with, scroll down, Nikki.
Exactly, investigations of, prosecution of criminal offenses.
Right, and then let's read the body of it too.
Yeah, Nikki has to scroll it down so we can read it.
Yeah.
It says work product materials. Notwithstanding any other law, it shall be unlawful for a government officer or employee in connection with the investigation or prosecution of a criminal offense to search for or to seize any work product materials possessed by a person reasonably believed to have a purpose to disseminate to the public a newspaper, book, broadcast, or other similar form of public communication in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce. But this provision shall not impair or affect the ability of any government officer or employee pursuant to otherwise applicable law to search for or seize such materials if there is probable cause to believe that the person possessing such materials has committed or is committing the criminal offense to which the materials relate. Provided, however, that a government officer or employee may not search for or seize such materials under the provisions of this paragraph if the offense to which the materials relate consists of the receipt, possession, communication, or withholding of such materials or the information contained therein, but that such a search and seizure may be conducted under the provisions of this paragraph if the offense consists of the receipt, possession, or communication of information relating to the national defense, classified information, or restricted data under all of these provisions. Or dealing with children.
So what do you?
Even though it is saying in here that supposedly they cannot seize your work product materials, how many times have they compelled a reporter to reveal their
Sources.
yes.
By law, they're not allowed to compel that.
That's right.
Now, have they? I'm sure they have, but by law, they're not allowed to.
Yeah, there's has been.
And Brandon makes a good point, and I was going to bring that up too. When you narrow a search warrant down, just because it was narrowed, that's like walking into a house and seeing blood on the floor. Now they have probable cause to keep searching the house. So when we think about a warrant that's narrowed down, that means they can't go looking for things that aren't obvious if it's not in that. But if they just happen to find something, just like a search to a car, if they happen to find something, it's still, as long as the search was legal in the first place, you're still responsible for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was actually just double checking, and I was going to mention that as well. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone there.
Well, what I understand, the government can do whatever they want to. If they find something they can pin on you, they're going to use it.
Yeah, but
No,
you
the
know,
government can't do whatever they want to. They do whatever they want to, and
They-
happen to get away with it a lot.
They can't go on some fishing expedition, and that's what I believe that's what they're trying to do when they want to get access into somebody's phone. They're going on a fishing expedition, and they don't know
Well, when
what
they
they're.
ask for all the passwords and all my everything that I'm into, and they list everything that people can go to, and they put it in the warrant, that's pretty well a fishing expedition as far as I'm concerned. Do you disagree?
Well, yeah, if you just label
Hey,
everything and want
Nikki, will you
everything,
fix that? Hang on, guys. Housekeeping here. Nikki, will you fix that? Or just
That-
let her fix that? That's no. We're not doing that.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, go ahead, guys.
That's true in qualified immunity. Smell and alleged words should not be used as probable cause. I agree. But what my point is, to Utah defenders is it has to be narrowed down to the point where if you're asking for passwords, there has to be something there. You can't just ask for passwords to my email address and all this because you claim you have probable cause on a specific app. I did something. It doesn't give you a license to go through everything that I ever have an account to. So to that degree, there should be, at least in the warrant, a very narrowed and tailored search, and it should typically have dates, times, and probable cause with it.
Well, they're asking for everything on my phone. All passwords, all sites, everything.
Well, hope you got a lawyer. That should be quashed pretty easily.
Well, you would think the judge that is over it would have seen that and would have done something about it, and the prosecutor too. But they want to see if you can defend yourself is what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, this whole thing is pretty convoluted. It's very complicated, a lot of questions. Um, and this is happening more and more, especially to people in the auditing community. A lot of our boots on the ground are having these things happen to them where they seize the phone, they want to get into the phone, they want to look at everything, they want to look at all your contacts, and what are they doing? What is the end game on that? I don't understand. Are they looking for conspiracies and things like that? It's like ridiculous. They're projecting what they do. Um, we should have warrants to get into all of their stuff because they are conspiring to take out First Amendment auditors and people just trying to get transparency and accountability within our government. And that's how they're fighting against us, is by turning the tables and getting all information about us to try to charge people with things. It's
So
absolutely crazy.
So let me ask the people a question if I can, Cliff. So if they're saying device registrations, they want all device registrations, customer service records, iTunes, Apple Rental Store, Apple Online Store purchases, gift cards, subscriber information, mail logs, content, all passwords, and on and on and on. That seems like it's a little bit beyond the scope of saying that we have probable cause there was a conspiracy.
Oh, that was way beyond the scope.
Thank you.
But what we think and what they do, we all realize that it is different. What we know to be the laws and what they are allowed to do to slide underneath the laws is different. I mean, you guys, we've got Amazon giving information to the government. You've got Ford Motor Company who has applied for a patent for your car to start snitching, not just on you, but on other vehicles that pass you if you're speeding. We're living in an open air prison, whether anybody wants to admit it or not.
Well, we
It's
can
what they're
1984.
certainly
gonna
expose it. We can certainly expose that it's happening, right? And that's kind of what we're doing tonight.
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah, because they're, I feel that the powers to be in this one city have screwed over people so much that they have a lower income based people, a high minority percentage. And I think they've done this for so long that they don't even think about screwing people of their rights. But I think they're going to quickly find out that there are some people that they screwed with that they're going to be sorry they ever did that.
Well, and I agree, and I hope that that is the case. I think they're really overstepping, and I think everybody on the panel, I think everybody agrees that they are overstepping their what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing.
And this
Um,
just isn't local. This is all over that's going on.
Oh,
We,
it
we,
is.
we just know about it because what happened, but this
Yeah,
is all over.
I wouldn't say that we think. I would say that we objectively, as a fact, know that. I think
Yes.
until we can get other people to see it that way in mass droves, then there's not much we can do. Some things as it comes across. There's really not much we can do until other people start seeing it as that. And as long as people are licking the boot and sucking the toe of government and don't, or even if they're not doing that, they're just so involved in their life that they want no interruptions in their life, that they just ignore it, which is just as bad in my opinion. There's really not much that's going to change, especially when the people who go to these meetings and the people who make these laws, and they don't care. I'd be very careful if you even vote. If you do vote, I'd be careful who you vote in. I wouldn't just I don't play the red or blue dichotomy of that situation. And that's truthfully the reason why I'm not going to vote at all. I don't trust any of them. I know that most politicians are liars. I know that all cops are liars. I know that all judges are liars. The DA and the ADA, their whole job is to convict you no matter what. And so we know that they're lying. They just make up stories on the fly, and as long as they can prove to a reasonable jury that that's what happened, you're convicted. So, yeah, that's all
Do
I
you
got to say
think
about that.
collusion?
Yeah.
Do you think everybody out there? Do you think collusion happens between a judge, your attorney, and the prosecution of a city or a government entity? Do you think that's going on?
It would depend on the profile of the case. I think that most collusion happens between the DA and the judge, and then your public pretender. It's their job to give you the best deal they can, especially if they know you're guilty. So we know that that happens. We know that they go to the bar every weekend. Maybe not the judge, but I mean, we know that the DA, the ADA, and the judges, we know they talk. They work in the same building every day. That's
So let me
why
say this.
we call them public pretenders. If
Yeah,
you're
let
going
me-
to have any fighting chance, hold on one second, and then if you're going to have any fighting chance, and if you have the resources, I would suggest finding a personal attorney. Otherwise, you're getting the deal that the government wants you to have, and that's it.
Let me say this. Cliff, are you there?
yes, I'm here, but I don't think you should say it. We know that defense attorneys, even if they're paid for, we feel like they collude too. So
Well,
it's
thank
all-
you. I
They
just
all
got my
work for the
answer.
courts. Yeah, they all work for the courts.
Thank you. I was going to pipe in and say that same thing. A paid lawyer is usually just as crummy, unfortunately and surprisingly, as a public defender.
Lawyer
Well, the
dog, I
problem is
agree
the paid lawyer
100%.
is because even if you're a paid lawyer, you have to give an oath to the courts. So, but not all lawyers do that. So the high-end lawyers don't care. They make a lot of money not giving a crap. But you're still, even paid lawyers, they are under oath being an officer of the court, which makes nonsense. It seems like it's all, by just that standard, I agree they all collude in some way.
You know, and Brandon Mitchell left a comment there that says you had a public defender that helped him out once. And, you know, I would love to hear the specific details of this case. It may be true that that happened. But what I've, you know, noticed is that I've seen people thanking the public defenders for throwing them under the bus because they don't even know. And I feel like, you know, a lot of people who don't know what they could have done better or, you know, or how their lawyers screwed it up might think that their public defenders or lawyers actually helped them when.
So And
that
can I
did
tell you how they helped me? Not that I got off. I was facing a DUI, a twice the limit DUI, and I had because of other stuff that got dropped eventually because it wasn't real. I had a protection order when I had the DUI, so I wasn't supposed to be drinking. So they gave me the DUI, the twice the limit DUI, and then a violation of protection order. And this isn't how it all works. My public pretender, well, we talked a fair amount, and then everything just went the way that it went. So I was doing other stuff, and I was getting on the ball, and she said, "Hold on, let me go talk to the ADA." And she came out and gave me a hell of a good deal. It had nothing to do with me, because once I pled to all that, and and I got all that dropped down from a DUI, twice the limit, and that it all went down to a DWAI. And then as soon as, because I was the last one to be on the stand, as soon as it was done, I watched both of them go up and hug each other. And I was like, well, that's how that happened. It's not what you know, it's who you know, obviously. So that's how I know it's corrupt. And the people who are supposed to be defending you go up and hug the person who's trying to steamroll you down the line.
Hi, EQI. You got anything to add?
Yeah, I didn't want to take up too much time, but hello, everybody. I just wanted it was a lot to type. I just want to tell you guys a little story if you could give me maybe 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
You got it, brother.
Go for it. What up, EQI?
I was a chef for 12 years up in Illinois. That's how I know Midwest and all them. And I had a couple restaurants and the country club that I overseen. And I will tell you that all the judges, the lawyers, the prosecutors, the police chief, they all eat lunch every day together, talk about the community, what cases, what they're going to do, what's going to happen, what they're going to, and this and that every single day. If you go to your local courthouse, there's going to be a fancy restaurant right around there, and they're all sitting in a back private room every single day.
That is great information to have. I think we'll look into that. See where they all hang out. Maybe show up with a camera.
And EQI is right, because if you think about it, why do they get an hour and a half every day to go out to lunch? It's lunch. Real workers, they get 30 minutes if they're lucky, and these people get an hour and a half every single day.
And then when court's supposed to start at a certain time, there's still bargaining in the judge's chambers how they're going to screw you.
What does that say?
In fact, you're a little late. He wants to know, isn't there a higher standard or expectation of privacy with a phone, even if it is used to capture video and or pictures? They shouldn't be able to get into it without a warrant. Yes, we all agree with you. However, there is technology out there now that all they have to do is plug into your phone and they can bypass your password, your facial recognition, your fingerprints, download all of that data, even encrypted, even things that are supposedly disappeared. And they may not technically be able to use it in court because they didn't have a warrant for it, but they can still hold it against you.
Well, I wouldn't say they can hold it against you. They will still use it against you, but just not in a court of law.
Right.
Leverage it. You can't hold anything against me if we're not in court.
Okay,
But they can
but
still use it.
Now, if they search the phone without a warrant, then that would be grounds for a civil rights lawsuit.
Yeah, but the damage is already done. So unless you can prove that damage, which is nearly impossible to explain to the average person who's actually going to be on the jury, it's to people's privacy. Until it happens to them, they don't actually understand how much of a violation of someone's personal everything that is. And so they're gonna, all they got to do is award $1, and yeah, you can get your lawyer fees, but then you get $1 for personal information. Like, who knows? Maybe you had some spicy stuff with you and your significant other, or you had, intellectual property in there, or any of these combination of things that the average person just couldn't comprehend. And it's really, I don't know why I should have to explain to the extent that I've been violated to receive something over how I've been violated for the jury to understand, which is because then it puts the burden on me, which I guess if you're the one suing, I guess the burden is on you technically. But do you see how messed up that is? It makes nonsense.
Well, I thought that's what our defense attorney was there for, to explain it to the average person, what's going on in simple terms.
Well, when you sue somebody, you're not on the defense. You're on the, when you put a lawsuit against the government is the defense.
Yeah, but I mean, he's saying like sometimes you're the victim still, even though you're the plaintiff, I mean, I guess typically you would be, but.
I've watched several of our auditors in court with their attorney, and I'm sitting there going, isn't that guy going to say anything? That's his attorney I'm talking about. And they don't say nothing.
Well, you have every right to object, even if your attorney's there, right? You don't have to wait for your attorney to speak.
I didn't know that.
You can object. Just your attorney's there, he's your mouthpiece, but you can still object to things if you know what you're talking about. I mean, you don't want to make a mockery of the court because that's just going to piss them off.
Well, you want to use your intelligence.
I mean, I would presume so. Lawyer Dog knows more. So if you have an attorney, are you allowed to object for yourself if you have a reasonable and well thought out reason why, like something that's not going to make the judge pissed off?
Yes, from my understanding and research, you are allowed to make an objection even though you have an attorney representing you.
Well, that's good to know.
So, well, with that,
well, this is why I always said that people should actually, in a case where pro se with the assistance of counsel. So that way they can help with the procedural stuff, but you can actually still speak anytime you want.
I watched that. It was either yesterday or the day before. I got to turn this fan off. He said, I would still like to have counsel represent me, but in the meantime, it's just a co-counsel. I'm still going to represent myself, but I would like co-counsel with me. And then that way, they're running the show, and then the counsel that you guys can talk, they can talk to each other. So.
Well, yeah, Lawyer Dog, tell me what the correct term is in court, how that is said. In other words, you want your attorney to speak for you, but you also want to be able to object and speak for yourself when you want to. What is there a terminology for that?
We can't do the terminology because none of us are lawyers and we're not offering legal advice.
Okay, what would you say so that we can research ourselves?
Yeah, so
just opinions.
So what I like to do is basically and you can even, this is the best way to do it, have your public defender even be considered as a standby counsel, and then have them file all the paperwork, file all the motions, and get all the evidence collected together that you tell them to get, because they're not going to get it on their own. And if they refuse to get it, sometimes they'll refuse to collect evidence or refuse to even put on witnesses that you have. and then you have to actually tell them that you're going to report them to the bar for not fulfilling their obligations, and down the line, if they, that'll usually get them in line. If they don't want to do their job at that point, they'll usually turn you over to another attorney. Once they know that you're going to write the bar, they'll start getting into line and doing what you tell them. Just assistance of counsel, like you said. If you want to have your friend help you, that's called a Mackenzie friend, where you can actually just bring your friend into court, and that would be considered having a Mackenzie friend. But they can't really speak to the judge. You do the speaking, and then they work next to you.
So, Lawyer Doug, Mackenzie friend, is that a national thing in any court, or is that specific to a state or something? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you would mention that, because that does kind of root out of a more common law thing, and the Mackenzie friend comes out of like a Supreme Court case, I believe, because the guy, his name was like Mackenzie, and he was the friend of acting as co-counsel.
You have to be really careful arguing common law when the courts depend on Black's law, just so you're aware.
Perfect.
And
welcome to the stage. Hang on. Welcome to the stage, Minnesota Black Rope. I'm sure you have something to say here, because you said you got to be careful with something else.
Well, I want to finish my question.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, and then we're going to
How
let.
do I tell the judge I'm going to go pro se with standby counsel? Is that how I say it, or what? What's the term I'm looking for?
Yeah, I would say just let her know that you would just like her to appoint standby counsel for you. Exactly.
Okay. Most judges are going to appoint a standby counsel even if you don't ask for it, because they do not want the case thrown out for ineffective assistance of counsel.
Okay. So is there another way of saying that I want to interject, but I want my attorney I'm paying for to be the main counsel, and I have the right to interject my thoughts during the trial?
If you're paying for counsel, you should not have to even worry about speaking. Your counsel should be doing everything you ask. You are the employer.
Also,
yeah, we already ran into that situation where he didn't do anything we were telling him to do, and then he withdrew because we didn't like that.
So you got to be careful. I'm assuming, with the Mackenzie counsel, because what that'll do is, if they allow that, then what will happen is in an appeal, it'll affect your appeal. So you got to be very careful with things like that too. So it's not always about what happens in court. It's also what happens after court. And if you want to appeal, if you haven't done everything the correct way in the appeal, you may have screwed yourself over in the appeal. So you always want to play the long game and look at everything that you can, in my opinion.
Instead of talking about the Mackenzie thing, I want to go back to I get an attorney, as Lawyer Dog said. So I guess the way I would interject my thoughts would to write them on a paper and then push a note to him so that he could say what I wanted to say if he didn't think of it. Is that correct?
A good lawyer will confer with you in that moment and ask you what's going on and why you want it to be handled that way.
How can I confirm what I want to say to the lawyer during the court proceedings? Can I do that?
Yeah, so
speak to him.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is, as long as you're upholding like the court decorum, and you're using the right terms when you're speaking, and speaking at the right times, just by like referring to the judge as your honor or the court, and not interrupting anyone, things like that, then you're pretty much fine to actually say what you want. You don't want to start saying too much, and then she'll, and the thing is, you're not going to do a lot of talking in court. This isn't like a trial. Most of the talking is done outside of court, between the prosecutor and your lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just going to go in the judge is basically just going to look at what you guys talked about and said, okay, you guys have an agreement or whatever.
Do I have the right to be in a third-party conversation with my attorney? Can I stipulate that to the attorney?
Sorry.
Okay. What he's asking is he wants to be present during any conversations with the prosecutor.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to tell your, lawyer that you want to be present during any and all conversations with the prosecutor, I mean, I suppose they may or may not, that'd be up to their discretion, I'm sure. And if they have an issue with that, you could hold a hearing with the court on that. Tell the judge you want to hold a hearing with the court on the relationship between you and your lawyer, and that it's having an effect on on the trial and or the
You
proceedings.
could have the contract written up that way when you hire your defense attorney, couldn't you?
Well, yeah, but if it's a public defender, they usually try to shuffle you through.
No, we're not talking public defenders.
If you're doing a paid attorney, then just get it right in the contract from the get-go. Just tell him that exactly, and then you don't have any issue with that. He'll do that,
Yep.
no problem.
Okay,
No
good.
problem.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
From what I understand, though, is that usually it's better the lawyer and the DA talk, and they're not really going to be, because the DA is not going to want to reveal all their hands. So you got to be very careful. Just be mindful of whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Your lawyer is not going to want you to say anything to the prosecutor because he's going to want to put a filter and check everything that you say as well. So
anything you can and say can and will be used against you. Remember that always.
Not can, it will. Just drop the can. We had that. Don't say can anymore. Just say will.
But I want to tell you what you're doing here, because I actually did something similar where I built my case together, told my public defender, present this to the DA and give them this deal. The public defender came back and said they won't accept the deal. And I said, and this was after a long time of fighting with them, but I'm getting to the end of it here. And I told them, I don't believe you. Show me in writing the public defender or that the prosecutor wouldn't accept the deal. And then they came back and said, okay, you know what? They actually will accept the deal. So they were telling me that the DA wouldn't accept the deal without even presenting it to them. They were my public defender.
So your public defender was lying to you. Yeah. See, that's the thing. That's the reason why you want to be in. Okay, so I would say, my opinion, not a lawyer, that you and your defense attorney make that deal, but then you shouldn't say anything at all in that room with the prosecutors. You should just keep your mouth shut, let them do their deal and talk, and then you can talk to your attorney after that and let him know whether or not you agree with that conversation and what went on. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree. And honestly,
but getting back to the topic again, the topic is police and apparently government officials, government employees can actually get into your phone without a password, without biometrics, without facial recognition. They can do that. And if they do that without a warrant, and then they get a warrant, can they still use all that stuff because they got a warrant after the fact?
No.
It's like, wow. I mean, but
only if you can prove it that they did
exactly,
that. The warrant.
Exactly.
And good luck. I mean, there's really no way of proving it.
Yep. So I
was wondering. I'm going to do something I don't do very often. I'm going to try and be really quick and brief, and don't laugh at me, Cliff, for saying it. So, this is a great conversation. Like I've told everybody, you guys have quickly become the most important channel on YouTube. And this is why is that you guys are having these conversations. And one of the reasons why these conversations are so important is that it's opening up the door for people to be able to ask really hard questions. However, and this is not a however you guys are screwing up, however, it's a however we need to really focus the right way. And here's what I mean. We've seen through the chat throughout this entire conversation, we've seen through the panel how we keep coming back to, well, the Constitution this or the Constitution that. And you guys all know me. That is very important to me. But we are never going to change how the state, and Nikki and Cliff especially, why I use that term. You've heard my explanation. We're never going to change how the state does things. We're never going to change how the state operates. We're never going to change how the state entities, its enforcement wing, throughout the entire judicial system, the criminal justice system, operates and does the things that they do. We just can't. What our conversations should be focused on is how do we educate the people around us to start to begin to open their eyes and wake them up.
Exactly.
And that's why your channel is so important. That's why I find you guys to be even more compelling than channels that are out there that have thousands of subscribers and thousands of viewers. Because a lot of them, they don't let anybody else on. It's only about them. It's only about what they want to talk about. And there's not a lot of conversation with the people who are still dragging their feet when it comes to being statist, when it comes to statism, when it comes to being back to blue at all costs. And that's why I cherish what you guys do, is that you allow these conversations to take place. I would just compel everyone to not stop focusing. I want anybody to hear that. Don't stop focusing on the Constitution. But we have to stop talking about what we are going to do to make the state honor the Constitution. We have to start talking to other people about what we are going to try and help them do so that they are honoring the Constitution. And that has to happen across the backyard fence, across the breakfast table at the local diner, sitting at the bar next to your buddy, or striking up a conversation with somebody and having those really hard conversations so that we're awakening them and they're starting to show up to city council meetings and county board meetings and in filming law enforcement when they see things going down. And I only say these things because I know it works, because I've had so many people attest to that in my life. Like, I had a friend the other day told me, he was like, I'm glad I met you, but I'm really pissed off at you at the same time. And because I don't see things the same way I did for so long.
I'm getting
And
a lot of
if
that from
we-
Utah Defender.
And if we are able, even in these spaces, like using the Twix or Twitter terminology, or on these panels, if we can start focusing our conversation less on, well, where did the state screw up? Where did this cop screw up? What do we do to hold them accountable? And start talking about what we do to wake other people up. I think that's going to help everybody that's paying attention to these conversations. And that's all I wanted to say tonight. You guys know how much I respect everything that you do. Especially, Utah Defender, just so you know, I know I kind of pushed back on you a little bit last week, but that was out of respect, not out of
No
malice. So,
problem.
this is how we change things. We have the conversations like they did in 1772 and 1773 in the pubs and in the diners and the inns and the bowling alleys. Well, they didn't do it in the bowling alley there, but that would have been interesting. But so I appreciate you guys. You know that. So thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
thanks
that
for
was
your
Understand
input,
Black
TC.
Rope
We
for sure.
appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate that.
Well, this is a good platform where we can, well, I wouldn't call it safe because we're all up for being challenged, so that's a good thing, right? It's just a good place where there's not a bunch of chaos and weird stuff, and we can actually have honest, civil conversations. When someone's wrong, someone's surely going to come along the way and address it, and I'm like, okay, now I've been corrected, now let's move on. And so
I
I'm with
resent
you
that.
there.
I cherish my weirdness and awkwardness. Thank you. So don't ever
Well,
take that.
weirdness and awkwardness is different than being wrong with something. We're not talking about personalities or anything like that.
And I am chaotic.
So am I. That's what I said earlier. I was like, what did I say? I said earlier in the chat, I forget, but I was like, I forgot what I said. It was something along the lines of, I just don't care, blah, 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 except for when I'm on the vigilance committee, then I have a little bit of respect because I'm a wild one. That's what I said. I'm a wild one unless I'm on the vigilance committee. It's just not tolerated here, so that's a good thing.
Well, Utah Defender, we should get in touch. I've actually helped quite a few people. I've been extremely successful in doing that. And my new thing is not only to help people win their cases against them, but now to help them counter sue, a civil rights lawsuit against them after they win their case, which I found most criminal charges have a civil rights case attached with them. So if you'd like, I would love to just check out the details of your case, later on sometime and see if we can actually win it and then make some money. You can make some.
Well,
money.
I'll tell you what my intent is, and I told Cliff this. I'm going to have a class action lawsuit against, or maybe just a single lawsuit, and then you'll understand why I'm saying that, against the Weber County Jail. I'm 76 years old. Cliff and I went up to Manitou in Utah, and there was a man 76 years of age who was thrown on the ground, concussion, excessive force. He was on his daughter's property, and the sheriff is a beast. So I'm 76, and I get manhandled by 4 police officers. And I don't hear anybody outcrying about, oh, here's a 76-year-old guy having 4 police officers jump his ass. What I want to do is take the money from the suing Weber County and putting that into a fund so people can have money for an attorney, because public defenders, this is my own words, okay, suck ass. They're not worth anything. I hate the son of a bitches. When I first met a public defender, I thought he was a nice guy. He was a member of my church. And then he goes to the bailiff because I proved him wrong to have me arrested. Seriously. And then he came back in when I was going to get handcuffs on. He goes, I'm sorry, it was all my fault. And I said, well, I still think you're a son of a bitch. Okay? And you can't tell everybody that you're fair in all your dealings with your fellow man when you want to get a temple recommend. Now, I know you guys don't know what I'm talking about, but that's what I want to do with the lawsuit with Weber County, so we can start a fund and then start finding attorneys. That is what I want to see. Fuck public defenders. They ain't worth the shit. None of them. They're all working for the municipality that they work in. So that's my
And
own
some
feeling.
of the paid attorneys are as well, and we found that out the other day. So,
Well, yeah, that's just something. I wish everybody could have been a fly on the wall with our attorney and saw his reaction when he caught when I just said he wanted to take something and do away with it, and I said, "You're full of bullshit." And man, he just jumped out of the chair and said, "I quit," because we caught him with his pants down. And he wanted to get out of there. He couldn't get out of that room fast enough.
and someday we'll tell that story too. So we just can't right now.
No.
Nikki,
that's
have
where I
you got
wanna go,
anything
so
to
that-
add? Is Nikki still here, or I don't see her
No, I don't see
on the
Nikki
panel.
either.
Where is she?
I don't think she's on the panel. She was pulling up
Nikki, are you making
comments
cookies?
for a second, I thought.
Huh. I'll have to text her and find out. Maybe her internet went down. I could have been.
And was it Dub Wubs that was talking to me about helping me with my case?
That was Lawyer Dog.
Lawyer Dog, yeah.
Oh, Lawyer Dog. Hey, yeah, when it comes time, believe me, I'm going to hire another attorney, but I want to do a civil rights violation of. Look, I was in a cell that was covered with human shit and piss, and they turned the temperature down to 50. And you can see the arrogance of the chief, the sheriff. That video's now gotten over 89,000 views, and I only have 100 viewers, as Cliff knows.
Oh, wow, nice. Nice, yeah, actually, yeah, man, George Gordon School of Law, he's got a whole online law school from like around the 80s time where he talks about documenting all of the experience while you're in jail to use that evidence in your lawsuit.
My
his name-
blood pressure was 210, that stroke, and they didn't ever have a doctor do anything for me. And when I left, I went home, took my medicine, and when I went to the doctors, it was 195 after I took my medication. All I wanted was toilet paper. And when I went to the room, I was not allowed to take a shit for 7.5 hours. Is that inhumane?
Right. So one of the things, and these are like, this is interesting nuances that you have to weed out of the legal system. Like the experience you have, one of the things that I've learned through my training is that in those experiences, you have to be documenting it all the time. The times, the dates, the names of
I've
the
done
people.
it.
Yeah, the names of the people involved. Write them all down as quickly as you can. The officers involved, what you asked them, what they denied you, all of that information. Then you put their name on the civil rights lawsuits, and you have to have you collect all that information while you're in there.
Well,
That's
here's
one
the
of
neat thing. You ask the entity in a grammar request, which is a FOIA request, Freedom of Information, and they don't give it to you. They only answer what they want to, and they don't answer everything that you're asking them. They wouldn't give me the names. So I wrote a second letter to my complaint. I said, I want the damn names of everybody on the swing shift and the midnight shift, because I had asked every one of them for medical treatment and to use the restroom, a toilet. Yeah, it's all documented.
Yeah, man, sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, it's even documented in a little baggie at his house right now, too.
Yeah, I've got human shit that I pulled out of it, fits the drain tops. You watch the video, you'll love it, because the sheriff says, I know about those hot cells. I know what goes on. He just admitted his guilt. And you know what? 3 people died from lack of medical attention the year before, and they were doing the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible, man.
And I'm 76. I served my country for 20 years and I'm treated like a goddamn POW. Are you shitting me?
Well,
And I'm a disabled veteran from a night combat jump, too.
welcome to America. You didn't think your government cared about you, did you?
No, I didn't think anybody cared about me. My dad was 100% disabled. He never went to VA because they always wanted to argue. And he kicked everybody's ass that would look at him because he was shot in the face or gave him shit. He was worse than John Wayne in a bar fight, my dad.
Well, what do you mean? I mean, I think everyone here cares about you, so somebody cares about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I'm just saying, when it comes to the people that are supposed to protect and serve us, they don't do that. They hurt us and disserve us.
That's because protect and serve isn't their policy or anything. That's just a slogan they took up.
And the other thing is, I was a military.
Hang on, guys. I got to find this out. Mr. Nicky, where is my partner? Where is my partner?
In crime. The legal kind, though. The legal kind.
For you who was just talking to me, I was a military police officer. I have a criminal investigative MOS out of the military. It's on my DD-214. So I know what the hell they're supposed to do, cops. And they can't bullshit me.
Oh, well, it was me, Dubs, and second off, military and domestic police are 2 different animals.
Oh, absolutely, they are. Yep. I agree, Dubwups. Either way, you don't get justice in either one of those justice systems. Anyway, I think I think we have. No, has anybody got anything else to add on this subject?
I want to apologize for taking up all the time, but everybody else is going to have similar circumstances dovetailed into what I'm doing, so that's why I'm bringing them up.
Right. So I was going to head off here about, I could actually just real quickly sum up the answer to that question of, can they look at the phone without a warrant, then get a warrant and use the evidence that they found in the phone? And from my understanding, typically the evidence would not be admissible if the warrant was obtained after they found the evidence. However, it can vary depending on certain circumstances. So again, it's like one of the nuances of law, where the DA would have to argue one of like three things, which would be whether it's the inevitable discovery doctrine, whether they were inevitably going to have discovered that, the independent source doctrine, which basically says that they would have discovered that through another search or something like that. And then there's the good faith exception that says that they would have believed that they would have not needed a warrant for that. So there's a few exceptions, and it's like the nuances of the legal system, and through.
Yeah, I don't want to help the other side.
Yeah, no. So I just wanted to kind of just answer that question in all of its entirety, and that's really, I believe, the general answer. And thank you for having me on, and it was a pleasure and honor to be here. Absolutely.
Thank you for being with us today. Dubwebs, do you have any last thoughts before we end?
At this point, other than your safety and your freedom is ultimately up to only you. So no matter what's said here, there, or anywhere else on the interwebs or in person or even by a licensed lawyer, protect yourself. So do as much research as you can and understand that it is your responsibility to make sure that you make it out free as a man or woman at that point.
Perfect. I like that. And Utah Defender, any last words before we end the stream?
I'm just pissed.
I know you are, brother. We're at least we're gonna expose some things. Whether you win or lose, we're gonna expose a lot of things. So stay tuned to Utah Defender and his channel, guys, because there's a lot of things happening in the background that we are not talking about yet either. So and with that, I am going to go ahead and play the outro. And thank everybody for being here. Please hit the like, subscribe, share with everybody in the chat, everybody that has a channel, Veterans Affairs Media. Please go to his channel as well, Utah Defender's channel, who said he's Elmer Fudd tonight. And Lawyer Dogs, I believe he's got a channel as well. And I hope everybody's been putting the links in the chat here. And thanks, Brandon, for being here as well. And I'm going to go ahead and play that outro. And everybody have a great, wonderful rest of your evening. On Sunday, I think we've got something lined up, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say anything. Just be on the lookout for the Sunday show at 1 o'clock Central Time. And here comes the outro. Have a great evening, guys.
Stay free, stay safe.
Committee, where the sun sets low and the spirits run free, we stand together, hand in hand, watching over the sacred land. We're the keepers of the flame. In the Vigilance Committee, we'll never be the same. Through the trials and the tests, we'll always give our best. Through the storms and the darkest night, we'll shine our light, we'll stand and fight. For the ones we love, for the ones we've lost. In the Vigilance Committee, we'll bear the cost. We're the keepers of the flame. In the Vigilance Committee, we'll never be the same. Through the trials and the tests, we'll always give our best. Through the storms and the darkest night, we'll shine our light, we'll stand and fight. For the ones we love, for the ones we've lost. keep the watch, we'll hold on tight. In the Vigilance Committee, we'll stand tall. Together we'll rise, together we'll fall. We're the keepers of the flame. In the Vigilance Committee, we'll never be the same. Through the trials and the tests, we'll always give our best. In the heart of the Vigilance Committee, where the sun sets low and the spirits run free, we'll stand together, hand in hand, watching over the sacred in the heart of the Vigilance Committee, where the sun sets low and the spirits run free, we'll stand together, hand in hand, watching over this sacred land.